I will never forget the moment those words sliced through the air like a blade. My father's voice was steady, final, and cold. "You have 48 hours to get your stuff out. Your sister owns that house now." At first, I thought he was joking. I even let out a nervous laugh, waiting for the smirk that usually followed his sharp remarks. But this time, there was no laughter. My mother stood beside him, her arms folded across her chest, her eyes fixed anywhere but on me. That silence hurt more than the words themselves. This wasn't just a house. This was the home I had grown up in, the place I had filled with memories of childhood, birthdays, late-night talks with friends, quiet mornings sipping coffee on the porch. And now, in less than 2 days, I was being asked to erase myself from it completely. The shock and betrayal. The reason came out in fragments. My sister, Claire, had been struggling financially after her divorce. She had 2 kids to care for, a pile of debts, and parents who always seemed to bend over backwards to make her life easier. Somewhere in their hearts, they decided the solution was simple: give her the house. And to make that happen, I had to disappear. I wanted to scream, to ask them how they could so easily disown the years I'd invested in that place. I had helped repair that roof after a storm, repainted the living room twice, even used my own savings to redo the kitchen when my parents couldn't afford it. But apparently, all of that meant nothing. Instead of anger, what I felt first was numbness. I packed my things quietly that night, hands trembling as I pulled clothes from drawers, books from shelves. Every item felt like a memory being ripped from my chest. But the real dagger came from my sister herself. Claire stood in the doorway, shifting uncomfortably, and muttered, "I'm sorry, boot a broken bar, you'll be fine. You're stronger than me." It wasn't just the house. It was the sense that my family had chosen her struggles over my sacrifices. Homeless in spirit. I found myself crashing on a friend's couch the first night after moving out. My world felt broken, like a puzzle scattered across the floor. The house was gone. My parents were silent, and the family I thought would always be my anchor had cut the rope. I wrestled with bitterness. Nights stretched long with thoughts circling like vultures. Why wasn't I enough? Why did they choose her over me? Was I just a broken bar, disposable? But here's the strange thing about hitting rock bottom: you begin to see who truly cares. My best friend, Daniel, reminded me, family isn't just blood. Sometimes family are the ones who stay when everyone else walks away. It was hard to believe, but those words began planting seeds. Rebuilding from nothing. I took on extra shifts at work, slowly saving up. The couch became a rented room. The room turned into a tiny apartment, a bare, but mine. There were moments I wanted to quit, to call my parents and beg them to reconsider. But every time I held the phone, I remembered their faces, that cold silence. I realized going back would mean surrendering my dignity. And so, step by shaky step, I built forward instead. Still, the pain wasn't gone. Holidays came and went with no invitation. Photos of my parents and sisters smiling with her kids appeared online, while I sat in my one-bedroom staring at an undecorated wall. Loneliness was a shadow I couldn't shake. The hardest challenge wasn't financial, it was emotional. Forgiveness. How do you forgive the people who made you feel unwanted in your own home? The turning point. One evening, nearly 2 years after that night, I got a call. It was Claire. Her voice cracked through the phone. "Can we talk?" She confessed her truth. The house hadn't solved her problems. She was still struggling, drowning in bills, and the weight of guilt for what had happened between us was eating her alive. She admitted she had pushed our parents, knowing I'd be the one to lose out. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to hang up, to let her feel the same abandonment I had felt. But another part of the tired, wounded part I realized holding on to that hate was only chaining me to the past. So, we met. We cried. We yelled. But we also began, tentatively, to understand. The resolution. In time, I learned that forgiveness doesn't mean excusing what was done. It means refusing to let it define you forever. My relationship with my parents never returned to what it once was. They remained distant, favoring my sister's struggles over mine. And maybe that's something I'll never fix. But with Claire, things changed. She saw me not as the strong sibling who could survive anything, but as someone who had bled too. We began to rebuild, not as siblings forced into roles, but as two flawed people trying to grow. The message. Looking back, being forced out of that house was the most painful betrayal of my life. But it also pushed me into a kind of freedom I didn't know I needed. I learned that walls and roofs don't define home, hearts do. And sometimes, you have to lose everything to discover your own strength. So if you've ever been abandoned, betrayed, or made to feel disposably, know this: your worth is not measured by who chooses you, but by how you choose yourself. Because at the end of it all, I lost a house, but I found a life. And this time, it was mine.